you've got two movies coming out at the moment. You've got For Jennifer and also Beyond the Law. I was wondering if you could start off by telling us a little bit about both of those films.
Yeah, so Beyond the Law I produced and directed, and then For Jennifer I produced, sorry. I've been locked in a house for 28 days now, so sometimes my thoughts are a little jumbled up. My apologies.
That's all right.
Yeah, so For Jennifer is the fourth installment in the Jennifer franchise. I directed the first one to Jennifer. The second one was directed by Hunter Johnson. The third one was directed by Frank Merle, and then this fourth one was directed by Jodie Barton, and it stars Tiffany Fest, Dominique Swain, Rich Finley, Lynette Tichelle, and Felissa Rose. And it's basically about a girl who is unraveling while trying to make a movie and uncovering a murder plot. It's a really wild ride. You don't have to have seen the first three movies to understand what's going on, but if you see it, it just adds like a little extra fun to it.
Yeah.
And it's a found footage style movie. It's a really fun franchise. And then Beyond the Law is about a man on a mission to avenge the murder of his son. And it stars Johnny Messner, Steven Seagal, and DMX.
Yeah.
And Zach Ward.
I was going to ask you that about Beyond the Law. It's got such an amazing cast. Tell us a little bit how you were able to put together people like DMX and Steven Seagal for the film, because it's an absolutely brilliant film.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so X, DMX, I've been a huge fan of for forever. And so, it was really difficult to get a hold of him because he wasn't doing movies really at that time, and now he's been doing a bunch. He acted in one of my friend's movies after it, Jared Cohn's movie, and DMX is super awesome, and it took a lot of staying on top of it to get him in the movie. And then, Steven and I were talking, and he read the script and he asked for some changes, and we just kind of went back and forth and ultimately developed this character into this really cool mob boss type character, which is kind of, when I spoke to Steven, I said, he kind of has like that Brando-ish sounding voice, and I really thought it would be a great role for him. And so him and I just talked back and forth, and it took a lot of planning, but I got him on board. And then after having DMX and Steven Seagal on the movie, the rest of the cast fell into place.
We actually had a talk recently on our show where we were talking about the fact that Steven Seagal is one of those actors that people know him for his action films, but he's actually a very, very good actor as well. Well, how did you find working with him from an acting point of view rather than an action star point of view?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that, I'm curious to see how people respond to with this movie. I mean, yes, there is action in it with Steven, but it's not really an action movie for Steven. It's more of a thriller, and I think it's more focused on his performance as this conflicted mob boss and father. And so, I think it was really great getting Steven involved because he understood that I was wanting to work with him as an actor, not as, an action star. And I think, he has a very subtle, subdued performance, which is the most you could ever ask for. I mean, I love, subtleties in performances, and he gives such an amazing performance in the movie. I was very happy with what he did.
Yeah, and you mentioned before that you're a huge fan of DMX. Tell us a little bit about why you're such a fan of his and why you felt he was right for Beyond the Law.
DMX, well, obviously we wanted to get DMX and Steven Seagal back together as well because, Exit Wounds and, was both of their biggest movies. So we had that idea to do so. But, X especially, I loved his music growing up, and I've been a big fan of his most of my life, and I watched his movies when I was younger, and I thought he was really talented, especially if you saw the movie Never Die Alone. He's great in that, and he's fantastic in Belly. And I thought, this would be like the right kind of role for him, playing, a dirty cop. I thought he just could really pull that off really well. Almost, we modeled the character after Denzel Washington in Training Day.
Yeah. So when you're directing an actor that you're a big fan of, how difficult is that not to blur that line between fanboy and director? Like, does it change the way that you direct the actor, or are you very aware of that and deliberately go about the business as director?
No, I just stick to about the business as director, and then I fanboy out after the movie. Like, it doesn't really register to me until I'm, in the edit bay, seeing their performance. I even when I worked with Christopher Lloyd back when I was younger, it didn't really click until I was like in the edit bay, and I was like, oh my god, this is Christopher Lloyd. But you're just working with them as an actor, and you're showing them the respect of a professional, of course. But I treat all my actors with respect, and I work with them collaboratively to create the character. And I keep a very open mind to that, and I think my actors appreciate that. So I definitely try not to fanboy out. I mean, I let DMX know I was a fan of his work. But I mean, that's kind of where it just ended, and then we worked together. We became friends and got along, and then obviously from there, after we were done, I was like, dude, huge fan, and yada yada yada.
Yeah. Now bringing it back to For Jennifer, this franchise has just, as you said, like, it's growing and growing. Did you guess that the Jennifer franchise would keep going as far as what it has over the years?
No, not at all. When I first made the first movie, I never thought there was going to be a sequel, because I was, a broke teenager with $500 and had to make a movie because a movie had fallen through for me and I had no money, and it was my last chance to do something. And I had told many people in interviews over and over again, like, practice, if you have a camera, you just go out there and make something. And so I decided to practice what I preached, and reached in my pocket and pulled out a phone and pointed it at my friend and said, hey, say this. And he said it, and I was like, oh, great. And then I walked away and started, writing the script, and came back and we filmed it. And that was To Jennifer. I never expected a small movie shot on an iPhone to really do much. I mean, I just hoped it would be a stepping stone. I never thought it would be, 4 movies deep.
So what's it feel like as the creator of a franchise like that now to watch other directors and other writers come in and kind of work with your characters? Is that kind of a strange feeling? Like, does it feel like your baby's in the hands of other parents kind of thing?
No, but it's a strange feeling in a different way. It's like a surreal moment, because it's like, Hunter Johnson was a first-time director when he did the sequel, the second movie, To Jennifer. And then, Jody Barton's a first-time director. Frank Merle had done a movie before. But, a lot of this was getting people, that next step for themselves to really, be, it kind of did for them what it did for me in that time. And it's kind of beautiful in that sense that, indie film, especially on this small level, can have a following and kind of open doors for people. And it's been amazing to see where they take the characters. I've been very appreciative to see what people do with it and how they decide to shape the world.
So tell us a little bit about Jody as a director, because you're known for picking great first-time directors to work on your projects. Tell us a little bit about Jody as a director and why you went with her for this film.
So Jody is a super talented actor, and I've worked with him many, many times. He was in, I'd say almost every one of my movies as an actor. He's been in so many of them. He was in Hate Crime. He's in the original To Jennifer. So he'd been around. He's in Beyond the Law. He's been in a lot of my stuff. And so, it was just a natural progression. And I always respected him as an actor, and thought, he really dug into the characters and got deep into them. And then him and I had fiddled with writing together a little bit. And once I saw that he was a good writer and, had great acting ability, I within the franchise, I figured, okay, well, this could work as a director. I think he would be able to tell the story really well. And so, him and I talked, and it just seemed like the best solution. I wanted to keep it within the family of people who had worked on the movies prior and understood them, and I also wanted to work with somebody that I thought would really be able to handle it, and I think Jodie did a fantastic job.
Yeah, Dominique Swain is also one of those most underrated actresses in Hollywood. Tell us a little bit about how she's become involved with the film, and a little bit about her role in the film as well.
Yeah, Dominique plays, a fun character in this movie. She's kind of like a stoner roommate. Really, really silly character, and I think people are really going to love it. And, she actually just reached out to me because her and I had done Bloodcraft, and she was in Bloodcraft, and we had worked together, and she reached out to me saying, what are you doing? And I said, oh, well, right now I'm producing this smaller, indie film. And she's like, I want to be in it. And I was like, no, you don't. It's like a smaller thing. She's like, and she was like, no, I want to be in it. And so, I put her and Jodie in contact, and they had a conversation, and just, he ended up casting her. So it was, Dominique's a really cool person, and it was just, she wanted to be in the movie.
Yeah. Now, I have to ask, how are you coping with lockdown? I know that you're such a creative person, so how are you coping with being in lockdown so far for 28 days?
It's been that, vacation that I never had, which is funny because I was actually going to go on vacation for the first time during this. I, booked, a vacation in Cancun and all that stuff, and so now, because I haven't had a vacation in 10 years, I've been working nonstop. Yeah. So I was going to, take some time off and really do that, but all this happened, and so I've taken the time to just kind of chill, do these interviews, kind of remotely work on post on Death Rider, which is a movie I produced that's directed by Glenn Danzig, and just playing video games, watching Simpsons, and I really have been trying to figure out a way to make a movie from home.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to see, can I make a feature film while I'm in this lockdown? Can I figure out a story and script that I can do from my house with, either just me or something, figure it out. And I started shooting, or editing, just a very experimental film, just out of boredom.
Yeah.
So Sean, my editor, is working on that right now. But I've been trying to figure out a way to stay creative, and just writing doesn't feel enough. I want to be making a movie, and I don't want to have 2020 be a year I didn't make a movie.
Yeah, I love how creative people are dealing with the lockdown. I was talking to another filmmaker the other day, and he's been sending a drone up in New York trying to get shots of New York streets with no people and no cars, because he said, I haven't got an idea for a post-apocalyptic movie at the moment, but I'm pretty sure those scenes are going to come in handy one day. So it's so amazing to hear how people are reacting to it. You've got these two movies coming out now, but what else can people expect from you in the near future? Because I know that you are a very prolific filmmaker.
So Death Rider's coming out, which I produced, directed by Glenn Danzig. So you guys will probably see that later this year, early next year. But hopefully later this year. I have a horror movie that I was going to direct. I was literally a few weeks out from doing before all this went on. So, we'll see when that picks up, and I'll fill everybody in from there. And then, just trying to stay creative on what's going on over here, and hopefully also, my movie Alone, which has been doing festivals, will be out soon for everybody to see.
Definitely. Well, James, thank you so much for chatting to us today. As usual, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we can't wait to see your next projects hit cinemas as well.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. Hopefully, when I have this quarantine movie done.
Definitely.
Stay safe, and thank you so much for taking the time.